So the second step in our workbook, or the financial section for a business plan, is going to be the payroll. And we have that here in front of us. And you'll see on this one there's just a few orange cells that we will put some information in. We may not use them all. And we will make at least one change down here in our workers' compensation, maybe some others. That might depend on your business or your choice. This one also could give us the option of changing some of the payroll given seasonal concerns. Okay, when we fill in our payroll numbers here, it's going to kind of make the assumption that everything happens the same pretty much every month. And obviously that may not be the case depending on your type of business. I mean, if your business was a lawn mowing business, for example, you're not going to have a lot of payroll during the wintertime, unless maybe you switch over to snow shoveling in the winter. But even then, you'd probably have some gaps in the fall and in the spring when you weren't busy doing either. So we can make those kinds of adjustments in these gold cells here, depending on our type of business. So what do we have? The first line says owners. Okay, and I'm sure I'm going to say this 100 times, and some people will still goof it up, but for the most part, and that should be just about everybody in this class, I can think of no exceptions, leave this blank. Line 8, row 8, blank, 0, just don't even put zeros in there, because even zeros will screw it up. Just leave that blank. Okay, why? Aren't you going to pay yourself? You're going to pay yourself, but where you're going to pay yourself is over here when we get to the cash flow, and it says owner's distribution. Okay, teaching moment. The reason these are different is this. Unless you are a C corporation, and I didn't see any businesses submitted that would probably opt for a C corporation. It's possible, but unlikely. Okay, so unless you're a C corporation, all of the profits and losses of the business flow through or pass through, they're oftentimes called pass-through organizations, to the owner or owners. What's that mean? Well, that means that if you're an LLC partnership, even a limited partnership, okay, all of the profits or losses of the business flow through. So if the business makes $100,000 and you take out $50,000 in owner's distribution, you're still going to pay personal taxes on the $100,000. Okay. On the other hand, if the business makes $20,000 and you take out $50,000, you're only going to pay taxes on that $20,000. And your business is probably going to spiral downhill if you do that for very many years. Okay, so owners typically do not draw a pay, and if you put something here and then you put something in the cash flow in that owner's distribution, you'd be doubling up, and we don't want to do that. So, okay, unless you're going to insist that you're either some type of an exception or that you will have a C corp, please just leave that blank. And if you think you're going to be an exception, let me know and we'll discuss it. Okay, then we get down to full-time employees, and what we want here just says numbers of owners or employees. So just kind of want to know, am I going to have maybe just one full-time employee, average hourly pay, assuming we don't get the increase in minimum wage pretty soon. This could be anything, if we're in Montana, of Montana's minimum wage, which I didn't check to see what it went up to, but probably about $8.50, somewhere in that neighborhood. It could be anywhere from that on up, right? If newly installed President Biden gets his way, of course, then we'd have to pay them at least $15 an hour. So let's say I'm going to pay my full-time person $9, and full-time obviously means they're probably going to work. We usually consider full-time somewhere 35 to 40. Some places might say 32. Okay, so let's just say they are going to work 40 hours per week. So we'll put that in there. Oops, sorry, I was talking to Lanny there a little bit as he walked past my office. So hopefully you didn't see me giving him the salute. Anyhow, part-time employees, I might have some of those as well, maybe 2 of them, and might pay them a little less, $8.50 an hour, right? And I would probably, they're each going to work 20 hours a week. And again, you see this autofills all this, and so we don't have to make some changes here. Although, like it says here, any of these little red triangles that are up in the corners, it says, cells have been auto-populated but can be overwritten if your payroll expenses increase over time. To restore the auto-population, enter this formula. So it tells you what formula you would enter in. But if you, again, if you had a seasonal, you may come in and change these numbers down to 0 potentially, if you're going to lay people off over the months. It also autofills all this down here. Remember, Social Security, you're required as the employer, you're going to deduct from their pay 6.2% for Social Security, but you also have to pay a 6.2% on their behalf, and that's what this represents. And then Medicare is another 1.45%, or a total of 7.65% that you're going to pay on their behalf. And then we've got federal unemployment tax and state unemployment tax. Okay, and it's okay to leave these here. I'm not sure what our rates are. I'm thinking at the state level they may be based on the type of job, meaning that those types of jobs that are seasonal, that oftentimes have unemployment, probably pay a higher rate than those types of jobs that are a little more stable. What you need to add for sure is when we get down here to workers' comp. And you may be able to, I've had a tough time finding a good site that tells us what workers' comp numbers would be, because they too are based on the type of business. So a dangerous business, logging, if you were hiring loggers, you would pay, I'll bet you it's 100% or more. So if you're paying somebody $10 an hour, you'd pay another $10 an hour into workers' comp. A clerical position, probably going to be maybe 8% or 2%. Okay, so it really depends on the type of business that you're planning to have as to what that workers' comp percent is. So you got to do some checking and see what's out there for your business, and maybe get an idea. I'm not going to sharpshoot that too much, but I would like to to see you at least do some little research and see what might be close for your type of business. Okay, employee health insurance, only if you plan to offer that, and this enters it in as a percentage. But some people might say, hey, we're going to offer employee health, but we're only going to pay $200, and the employee's going to have to pay the rest if they want it. You could have that type of a benefit there, and the same thing for other employee benefit programs if you choose to. Most startups probably wouldn't have health insurance or other employment benefit programs, but you might. Okay, and so I leave that up to you. That's kind of it for the payroll, right? Oh, I've got independent contractors up here, and that could be. You might have some folks. I'm trying to think of a good example of an independent contractor that may work for you. Maybe a delivery person. If you had a restaurant and your delivery person, they supply their own car and they do their own thing, and you're just going to pay them X amount, maybe per hour in a case like that. There might be some other examples that you would do. I think pastors for churches are oftentimes, and not that a church would be doing a business plan probably, but I think they're oftentimes considered independent contractors, and yet they're paid kind of on a monthly basis. So there are some examples. I guess if you have questions about whether it should be included in that or not, holler. Some salespeople and whatnot are considered independent contractors, but once again, when we get over, I think, to the cash flow we've got a place, or maybe it's the operating expenses for commissions. Okay, that if we had somebody that was a purely commission, let's enter it in there as opposed to here as the independent contractors. I think in the independent contractors that we would put here on the payroll would be those people that are going to draw a fairly consistent, we can't really call it a salary because they're not employees, but a fairly consistent level of pay from our organization. Okay, so again, a few orange spaces up here that you're going to fill in, the workers' comp, maybe some changes over here depending on your business. We get to page 2, or payroll for years 1, 2, 3. This is year 1. This is just taking the totals from your prior page, right? Let's go to the end there, and it would be the totals. Then we've got some increases. We do have to make some changes here because this is a little odd. I keep saying every semester I need to change the formulas, but then I keep thinking I'm going to retire, and so I don't change the formulas, but I need to. As you can see, we got full-time employees and part-time employees, and they got them at a little different rate. I think I'm going to change that to 20% just so we're kind of consistent. If we had it like this, we'd be correct because we've got 20% increases here and 20% increases down here in all our Social Security and Medicare and whatnot. And we got 30% increases here and 30% here. I'm going to tell you that that's some pretty big increases, and I probably would be not inclined to give that type, or at least project that type of an increase. If things went extremely well, I might do it, but yeah, I'd be kind of hesitant to plan on that. So the important thing here is that if we make these changes, and it automatically converts these to percent, so instead of entering 0.20, which would be 20%, just enter the 10% or 10, and it'll do that. Okay. The important thing here is, I think, be consistent between your full-time and your part-time. That may not be what you want to do, but and if you really insist that you want to change that, let me know and we'll go in and we'll fix the formula. But if you're consistent there, then these 4 things down here need to be changed to also be consistent. Okay, so then we'd have to change all those to 10% as well. Okay, so we need to have the consistency between these 2. Again, we shouldn't have anything for the owner, and these 4 down here. Even if you had something for an independent contractor, it wouldn't matter because their salary shouldn't affect these things. We shouldn't have to deduct for those things if we have an independent contractor. And the same would hold true for over here. Maybe we wanted to do this at 15%. Okay, so we'd put 15 here, and then we can drag that down or copy that down. Okay, that's up to you, right? You get to decide how much you want to project. My advice is keep it on the low side. I'd rather see you project low, and if things work out good, you give a nice increase. It would probably be unwise to say 0, unless if you're starting them out, I guess, well above minimum wage. That's fine, but like in Montana, if minimum wage is going to go up at least by the rate of inflation every year. So you got to judge that, I guess, by what you want to do. But again, I would try to, even 10% and 15%, putting those in is fairly high, I would say. I'd probably, if it were me doing it, I'd probably be a little more comfortable putting in like a 5% number for both years. And if things went really well, great. I'll give them a bonus and a better raise if things happen to go that well. So that's it for the payroll, right? Shouldn't be that difficult. Again, I fully expect that as you get into your plan, and you say, ooh, I don't know that I can handle that. I'm working on my schedule. I'm in the management organization, working on the schedule, and ooh, I need a few more people than what I thought. Fully expect that we might have to come back and make some changes here, and that's fine. That's the whole purpose of this thing, is that as you go through all the steps, you start to realize that these things all work together, and we have to change and amend things, based on the information that we find at a later time. There you have it. All right, everybody, have a great day and go to work on this, and I look forward to starting to see these things